Season 2, Episode 3. Jesus, a life of radical self-mastery. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Luke 23, verse 34. Jesus said this while being executed, not after the fact, not once the pain had passed, but in the middle of it. Whatever else one believes about Jesus, this moment alone forces a serious question. What kind of inner discipline does that require? Jesus was not a Stoic. Stoicism existed before Christianity, yes, but Jesus was a Jewish teacher, not a Greek philosopher. He spoke of God, covenant, obedience, sacrifice, and of course, love. He did not speak of logos, fate, or nature. So this episode is not about claiming Jesus was Stoic. We know he wasn't a Stoic. But it's about asking something more careful. What did Jesus do in his actions, his restraint, his response to suffering, that later Stoics would recognize as virtue? Again and again in the Gospels, Jesus demonstrates something the Stoics called enkratia, mastery of the self. He fasts for 40 days and resists temptation. He refuses power when it's offered cheaply. He doesn't react impulsively to insult or provocation. He speaks deliberately, often choosing silence over defense. When questioned by Pilate, he does not argue his way out. He does not manipulate. He does not panic. And this, it's not passivity, it is restraint. Stoics believed that true freedom came not from controlling the world, but from governing the self. Jesus lives this out in real time, under real threat. Stoicism taught indifference to externals, wealth, reputation, power. Jesus repeatedly embodies this. He eats with the poor and the rejected. He avoids political authority. He rejects being made king. And he treats praise and condemnation with the same calm distance. When crowds cheer him, he withdraws. When crowds turn on him, he does not retaliate. From a Stoic perspective, this is remarkable. His sense of worth is not dependent on the public or on public approval. Here is where the parallel becomes strongest. Stoicism teaches, do not fear what you cannot control, including death. Jesus clearly understands what awaits him. He predicts it. He walks towards it. He does not deny fear. Gethsemane shows us that. But he does not allow fear to dictate his actions. Now, this is not emotional numbness. It is chosen obedience despite fear. A Stoic would call this courage. A Christian would call it faith. The behavior, the discipline is unmistakable. One of the core Stoic principles is this: you cannot control outcomes, only responses. Jesus does not control the betrayal, the arrest, the trial, the execution. What he controls is his words, his silence, his forgiveness, and his refusal to hate. Even on the cross, he governs his response. This is not weakness. It is moral strength under maximum constraint. Where Stoicism stops and Jesus goes further. Here, the comparison must end, if I'm honest. Stoicism teaches endurance through reason, but Jesus endures through relationship with God. Stoicism aims at inner tranquility. Jesus accepts anguish, but refuses resentment. Stoicism says, accept fate. Jesus says, trust the Father. The behaviours may look similar, but the foundation is not. So what came first, and why does that matter? Historically, Stoicism came first. Ethically, Christianity absorbed and transformed many of the same virtues. Early Christians did not invent courage, restraint, or self-discipline. They inherited them and reoriented them towards love, sacrifice, and grace. Jesus did not teach Stoicism, but he lived a life of such moral discipline that Stoic thinkers later recognized something familiar in it. Let's close with this reflection. Jesus did not come to teach philosophy. He came to do the will of God. But in doing so, he demonstrated the highest form of self-mastery, courage, and restraint the ancient world had ever seen. Stoicism helps us name those virtues, but Christianity tells us why they matter. And perhaps that's the right way to hold them both, not as competing truths, but as different ways of understanding what it means to live well under pressure. Jesus did not teach people how to escape suffering. He showed them how to stand inside it without becoming bitter. On the cross, nothing changed around him. The pain remained, the injustice remained, the outcome was fixed. The only thing still free was his response. And that may be the most confronting part of the story. Not the miracles, not the theology, not even the resurrection, but the idea that even in the worst moment imaginable, Jesus' character, he decided it was still a choice. Stoicism would later give this idea a name, but Christianity gives it a face. And if I had to choose one, I'll always choose to follow Christ.